March 2, 2021 marked the exact 1 year of COVID-19 pandemic in Indonesia from when it was found for the first time. Until May 2021, there were about 1.7 million COVID-19 cases in Indonesia, which has taken many lives. In handling COVID-19 pandemic, Bandung Adventist Hospital was appointed by the government to be one of the referral hospitals to treat COVID-19 patients. To prevent transmission of COVID-19, we have implemented the health protocol in the hospital service and care and separate COVID and non-COVID patients.
Good morning. I hope that everyone had a blessed rest and a great morning today. We have several topics prepared for you throughout this day, and we look forward to interacting with you here on Facebook or on our Zoom call that's inside of our SSD booth, which you can find at our global camp meeting. So if you haven't been there yet, go and register at campmeeting.com. Go over to the exhibit hall and check out all of the other booths, but go and find the Southern Asia Pacific Division's booth, where we have there several videos, lists of videos and resources that can help empower and support you in your leadership at your local church. This morning, we have a topic that's based around the function of health. And Miss Joanne Amparo is our director here for health and health services. And she has a special topic today, Adventist Health Mission Ablaze. If you have any questions after this, please put them in the comments below, and we will try to direct them to her as soon as possible. Thank you.
At this time. It's so exciting to be part of this global event and to be meeting brothers and sisters from all over the world and learning and being inspired by the mission and ministries happening in every corner of the world. It's my privilege to share this presentation this time entitled Mission Ablaze, to share to you some bits and pieces on how mission is being accomplished in the healthcare ministry across the hospitals in this division. Second, to share tips or lessons from these experiences. And third, how we can level up in accomplishing the mission in this ministry. The Southern Asia Pacific Division has 19 hospitals and 1 dental clinic operated by the different unions in 7 countries, and about 14 standalone clinics operated by the local missions and conferences. This picture is part of a report of one of our hospitals as they engaged in evangelism outside their communities. And they conduct evangelistic meetings that result to baptisms. And even with the pandemic's challenges last year, a number of hospitals were still able to report baptisms, and even the highest number of baptisms they ever had, ever. These, however, are just secondary or even tertiary to their mission. We know that as hospitals, being in the healthcare ministry, our mission is to extend the healing ministry of Christ. Though it may be stated in various ways, the essence is the same, to bring healing as Christ did when he walked among men to patients and to those who are suffering in terms of their physical, mental, and the spiritual aspect of their lives. This presentation we'll discuss what the various hospitals in the division are implementing to effectively carry out the mission in their operations. In this regard, let me talk about mission integration. Mission integration is what leadership does to incorporate mission into the day-to-day activities and life of the organization. This term is predominantly used in Christian institutions that operate in secular environments like hospitals and schools. Mission integration, according to this description, which is more or less, it gives us an understanding of what mission integration is. According to Lloyd Dean, the CEO of Dignity Health, and Bernita McTurnan, who is the Executive Vice President for Mission, they describe mission integration as all of the processes, programs, and relationships that express a spirit that is deeply woven into the fiber of organizations, a spirit that is expressed in a deep commitment and sense of purpose rooted in values and traditions of the organization and evident in a special spirit that is part of the culture, and this is what draws people to the organization. Mission integration, therefore, is a conscious, deliberate, intentional approach to ensuring that mission is carried out in all the aspects of the operations, in this case of an Adventist hospital. In the case of mature Adventist health systems, such as Adventist Health in the U.S., based in Orlando, Florida, the system has an executive who is in charge of providing direction and oversight of mission and ministry to the hospitals under it, cultivating mission-focused leaders, and promoting and incorporating mission across all the organization's inpatient and outpatient areas. As surviving in the healthcare world is challenging, almost daunting, hospitals have to ensure that it remains grounded in mission, as it is easy to lose such focus when the demands of regulation and competition can easily distract leaders from its purpose. I will be presenting some of the programs as adopted by some of the hospitals in the Southern Asia-Pacific region. I would like to have a disclaimer though, these are not all of the programs, but are just some of which I had readily accessed and is a representative of what others are also doing across the division. I have categorized them into three, which are: one, Enculturation, that is the programs directed at leadership, at employees; and second, Patient and Community-Centered Experience programs; and third, the Cascaded Church programs and the traditional programs of the hospital. So now let me go to Enculturation. Back in 2017, we had as a theme for the Southern Asia Pacific Division's Adventist Healthcare President's Council, an annual conference of the hospital leaders in the division, the theme Enculturation, Setting Ablaze the Mission in Adventist Healthcare. One of the objectives was to inspire and provide tools and ideas for participants to intentionally enculturate mission in their hospital operations, directing it to their human resource, their personnel, and the physicians, and all others who are part of the team caring for the patients. Now, Dr. Hector Gayars Jr., then the president of Adventist Medical Center, Bacolod, presented the topic Enculturation, Finding the Flames of Mission, and shared the following definitions of enculturation. One, it is the process by which people learn the requirements of their surrounding culture and acquire values and behaviors appropriate or necessary in that culture. Next definition is the process whereby individuals learn their group's culture through experience, observation, and instruction. So who are to be enculturated? It's everyone involved in and affecting the delivery of the healing experience to the patient. So now let's go to some enculturation programs that can be seen in our hospitals in this division. This is iCare. iCare is a flagship program of Adventist Medical Center, Bacolod. It stands for I, the individual, C stands for care, A stands for attentive, R stands for respectful, E stands for enthusiastic, meaning this is how everyone who is taking care of a patient or attending to a client should behave when they are face-to-face with them. And this program was cascaded from the administration down to the last level of employees, to the clinics, the independent clinics within the hospital, to the doctors, and even to the employees of outsourced services. It was reinforced via an appreciation system and incentive system, and monitored by surveys and evaluation. And as a result of implementing this program, a high satisfaction rating was a result of this after so many months and even a year of executing and implementing this program. And it also resulted to high employee morale. And the hospital gained the reputation to be a hospital where compassion is felt and where workers live their mission. This is another program by one of our hospitals, recently launched just last February. And this is from Penang Adventist Hospital, which is the LEAD program, and it stands for Leadership, Education, and Development. So in this program, the managers and the leaders of the hospital are asked to visit patients and engage with them. And in so doing, will be able to extend help to the patient if they are needed, and at the same time to thank patients for their patronage. So this program helps leaders who are not direct frontliners to see, hear from the patient's perspective about their experience, and also gives a projection to the clients and the rest of the workers in the hospital that their leaders are engaged in the mission. This is a picture of one of the activities of Adventist Hospital Palawan, where they engage their employees in their outreach. And recently, this was in handing out goods in the community pantry of the hospital, where they give food to those who don't have enough during the pandemic. This is a picture again of another program in Adventist Medical Center Bacolod, dubbed Saturday Breakfast Club. It's a religious conversation among interns and doctors. So every 2 Sabbaths, the hospital sponsors breakfast for these doctors, especially these medical interns, and the facilitator, and in this case, it was Dr. Gayares, takes them through a discussion and sharing on the ministry of healing or the material of creation health. It becomes an opportunity to share the gospel truths as well as mold the next generation of physicians and leaders. This is another program by the hospital in Bacolod. They call it the Spiritual Ambassadors Program. This program is for those workers who are not members of the Adventist Church, so that they can get an equivalent of a missionary license that is usually awarded to Adventists who have worked in the hospital for at least a year. And this is the module or the curriculum for this spiritual ambassador program. You can see it's a little tiny, the letters are a little tiny, but this is actually the 28 fundamental beliefs organized, thoughtfully arranged into a series of studies aligned to the ministry of healing. So the discussion about Christ and the Trinity and the Father and the Son is like setting the foundation where the ministry started and what Christ did while he was here on earth. And so all the other topics on the fundamental beliefs are arranged and geared and related to the healing ministry. Now let's go to the patient and community-centered programs. Hospitals must be able to deliver quality clinical care in their outpatient and inpatient services. These are baseline expectations. But beyond that, Adventist hospitals must also incorporate in them the delivery of compassionate care. Here are some of the notable programs that are being carried out in the hospitals. So here we have the program of WOW Eye Care from Penang Adventist Hospital. WOW Eye Care is a modified clinical pastoral education program. WOW, W-A-W, stands for Holistic Approach to Wellness. And as its name, Eye Care, it is a diversified faith group program that endeavors to increase the participants' self-care awareness, improve their relationships, and enhance their skills by mastering a more responsible and scientific method of ministering to others, especially the needy. Now, WOW Eye Care was able to train 74 participants. And Adventist Medical Center Manila, the only clinical pastoral education training center in the division run by the church, also conducts a similar program for their managers and workers and even for medical students, equipping them to be better listeners and so that they can be able to reach out and touch the lives of the patients or their families who have burdens they carry in their hearts. And the next one is, this is an assessment form being used by one of our hospitals, our Adventist Medical Center, Iligan. And they use this questionnaire, they give them out to patients who are admitted and even to patients who are just visiting the clinics. And this form is answered by the patient. And the questions are, 1, do you have a religious belief that influences your medical decisions? So it's just a yes or no question. And the second is, does your physical condition affect your present emotion? And 3, does your physical condition affect your spirituality? So this questionnaire opens the door for a conversation on mental health and spiritual health. It makes it easy to identify the needs of the patient. Doctors and nurses who may not be equipped nor feel comfortable to talk about these matters with the patients or their family may refer them to pastoral care. So in that way, the patient's mental or spiritual needs are being identified and can be taken care of by those who are either the nurses or the doctors or the chaplains in the pastoral care department. And this form was actually inspired by Advent Health in Orlando, Florida. Now, this program, charity program by Penang Adventist Hospital, I would say would be the largest in the division. They have a department that takes care of raising funds for needy patients. So if you can only hear the stories that result from this program of the hospital, of lives that have been changed, that have been saved because of this, this is truly another powerful ministry of the hospital. Of course, all our other hospitals have, in their own way, have a charity program, but Penang Adventist Hospital's program is the most mature one because it's already a department and they're raising millions so that they can help others. And they have several funds. They have labeled as Welfare Fund, the Dr. J. Earl Gardner Fund, the Patient Heart Fund, and the Cancer Fund. So as an Adventist hospital, they are not only doing very high clinical care for their patients, but are also taking care of even their financial needs. Now, this other program is a recently organized department in Adventist Hospital Davao. It's the mental health program, and it's responding to the rising cases of mental health issues in the community. We know that mental health is becoming a pandemic of its own. And as part of our mission, our hospitals should be able to provide services addressing the need of the mental health of our communities. This one, lifestyle medicine centers, what used to be wellness education departments in the hospitals are now turning into centers of lifestyle medicine as it becomes more accepted by the medical community. Several of our hospitals have embarked on developing their own brand of lifestyle programs such as Lifestyle by Adventist Medical Center Manila, and Lifestyle stands for an acronym for each principle of health also. And then Freedom, which is by Adventist Hospital Palawan. Again, it stands for principles of health. And we have Hidup Sihat from Rumasakit Advent Bandung. Again, it represents something like New Start. And other hospitals are also using the traditional, of course, New Start, CHIP, and our own celebrations coming from the General Conference. So now we go to the traditional outreach programs and church programs support. Of course, our hospitals continue to execute the traditional ministry activities in the form of medical missions, chaplaincy services, feeding, and other community health programs. But at the same time, they also support and contribute and execute programs that are aligned to the local mission or conference trusts as cascaded from higher church organizations like the Week of Prayer, evangelistic outreach within the community and outside the local region, engaging and financially supporting missionaries, and even contributing capital equipment for ministry. I will not discuss many of that because I don't have the time, but let's go to the tips or what lessons we have learned from what the hospitals are doing in the division. So I would say that these are the effective mission integration components that we should look into if we want to be able to integrate mission effectively in the hospital's operations. So one is leadership. Leadership has to be insanely passionate about mission because it's leaders who are taking the lead, and therefore it should spring from them the spirit and the passion of carrying out the mission. Secondly, there has to be training and effective cascading of the mission agenda across the organization. This has to be regular. it has to be intensive, and the administration or the leaders of the hospital should be willing to invest in the trainings, in the training program, so that mission is communicated and everyone is engaged across the hospital or the organization. Third is, of course, engagement or of the involvement of all levels in the organization. So from the leadership down to the lowest level, of all levels of the organization or the hospital should be engaged in the mission, because everyone gets to encounter patients or their families, and therefore they should be able to appropriately carry out the mission in whatever they're doing for the hospital. Third is monitoring and evaluation of feedback. So when a hospital or organization takes on mission integration, they should be able to monitor how they're doing through the surveys for patients and even for the workers and all other stakeholders in the hospital. And there should be careful evaluation of what these people are giving as feedback, so that we can improve on whatever their complaints or comments are, or whatever experiences they have. And of course, there should be affirmation and reinforcement program, where when we may take on enculturation, we need to affirm those who are really doing well in terms of doing mission and whatever responsibilities they have in the hospital. So for example, in Bacolod, there's an appreciation or a wall for those really garnering high points in the patient satisfaction survey, and the appreciation of patients are actually posted on the wall, so that people are encouraged also to do well as they minister to patients. And there's also a way of telling stories in the meetings of the hospital, so everyone gets to be inspired when someone is able to deliver the mission or able to touch the lives of their patients or the families of their patients. And of course, there has to be continuous improvement, and as we get the surveys and the results of the surveys and feedback from the patients, we get to improve, identify those areas that needs to be improved in terms of our mission delivery. And so the cycle goes on. Now, beyond compassionate care and healthy lifestyle programs, a few years ago, I had this question, because it's not easy to run a hospital. It takes a lot of funding, it takes a lot of finances, resources, takes a lot of resources in terms of leadership, time, your headaches, because you need to comply with a lot of things, and then you need to compete in the business environment. And so my question was, how different is an Adventist hospital from another Christian hospital? All Christian hospitals have prayers. All Christian hospitals are also passionate about mission. So what difference are we making? And with the advent of lifestyle medicine, now all doctors are also familiar with changing lifestyle as a way of addressing illnesses. So what difference are we making now? Before, wellness was it identifies our hospital as really different from others. But now it seems like there's not a lot of difference. So what? And then other Christian hospitals are also compassionate. Some are even more compassionate in terms of really dealing and relating with their patients. So let me just share to you a few quotations before I end, for us to ponder on that. This is from the Medical Missionary book, page 188. It says, the medical missionary work is as the right hand and arm to the third angel's message, which must be proclaimed to a fallen world, and physicians, managers, and workers in any line enacting faithfully their part are doing the work of the message. From them, the sound of the truth will go forth to every nation and kindred and tongue and people. In this work, the heavenly angels bear a part. They awaken spiritual joy and melody in the hearts of those who have been freed from suffering, and joy and thanksgiving to God arise from many hearts that have received the precious truth. Now from Testimonies for the Church, it says, our sanitariums in all their departments should be memorials for God, His instrumentalities for sowing the seeds of truth in human hearts. This they will be if rightly conducted. And another from Medical Missionary, page 27. The purpose of our health institutions is not first and foremost to be that of hospitals. The health institutions connected with the closing work of the gospel in the earth stand for the great principles of the gospel in all its fullness. Christ is the one to be revealed in all the institutions connected with the closing work, but none of them can do it so fully as the health institution where the sick and suffering come for relief and deliverance from both physical and spiritual ailment. Many of these need, like the paralytic of old, the forgiveness of sin, the first thing, and they need to learn how to go and sin no more. And another from the Review and Herald, if a sanitarium connected with this closing message fails to lift up Christ and the principles of the gospel as developed in the third angel's message, it fails in its most important feature and contradicts the very object of its existence. Now, with all these quotations, how are our hospitals doing in terms of really introducing our patients to Christ? Are we intentional about it? Do we really go out of our way after being able to deliver compassionate care and give them a great experience in the hospital to reach out and connect to them and take that opportunity of being acquainted to them to establish a deeper relationship so that we can eventually introduce them to Christ? You see, from all these quotations, our hospitals would just be another hospital if we are not really intentionally seeking souls to introduce to Christ. It is my prayer that we will not be contented with just having compassionate care or excellent clinical outcomes in our hospital or doing medical missions and preaching to outside the communities and doing evangelistic work, but really for the patients who are coming through the doors of our hospital, let's take that opportunity to deepen our relationship with them and eventually be able to introduce Christ to them. Because our hospitals, the goal should be the soul.
And there you have it. Isn't it quite amazing to see how extended and how the reach of our Adventist healthcare system? And I'm glad this morning that we get to be with Mom Joanne. She's with us here in the studio live. And we have a couple of questions for her that will help us enlighten ourselves with what's the goals of our Adventist healthcare system and the importance of the cultures that they are trying to share within our health system. Mom Joanne, may I ask, can you explain to us this enculturation and what does it benefit in the services of our Adventist hospitals?
Enculturation, as we have discussed or shared in the presentation, is the process by which people learn the requirements of their surrounding culture so that they behave and possess the values that are required by that culture. And of course, in our hospitals, our culture is that of mission, that of extending the healing ministry of Christ. How do we make sure that that culture is permeates every aspect of the hospital operations, or everyone in the hospital sorry, is exhibiting or demonstrating that culture in the way that they do their jobs, especially in the way that they relate to patients and their families and everyone who goes through the hospital doors. And very important in this, as mentioned, is that the leadership should have the passion. It should be really they live, breathe, and you know, demonstrate mission in their own lives. And they're very passionate, meaning not just very, but insanely passionate. So every moment that's on top of your mind. So if you have a leadership that's like that, naturally, you would always talk about mission. You would always be concerned about mission, and even your plans and strategies would be infused with mission. So enculturation is directed towards the personnel or the workers of the hospital, and not just the workers, but even the doctors, those people who are really part of delivering healthcare or the healing services to the patients and their families. So when the leadership is very passionate about that, so even their training, the orientation, the workers, the uh, the monitoring, the reports are all oriented towards mission. And it gets to be fun when you are very intentional about that, because you measure the results also. So, for example, in the hospital that I was in, when we believed that we were really very passionate about mission. When we started with the enculturation program, it didn't really take off as much as we wanted until we realized that the leaders should be insanely passionate about it. And so we saw the results through the patient satisfaction surveys. The complaints drop, and you see a lot of compliments and appreciation for what they're experiencing in the hospital. And also we came up with a strategy of furthering the enculturation and inspiring the workers by having every week a story about patient experiences or about the experiences of workers, in such a way that even they themselves were inspired by their own experience. So how a patient appreciated them, or the realization or the fulfillment of being able to help a patient. Like, for example, even if a patient is really very demanding and unreasonable, or the family will be like that, but because of mission is in your heart and you're very conscious about it, we have like workers who are really extremely patient and humble, even in the face of all the complaints and aggression that they sometimes face. And eventually, the patient and the family turns around and begins to appreciate that, because in the moment of stress, when a patient is sick, it's a very stressful situation. And of course, people can be irritable and very, complaining and all that. So when a worker is patient and compassionate and even gentle with them in the face of that, they later on they would appreciate, and they write back and even send gifts and food in appreciation for what they have experienced in the hospital. And it's very heartwarming to say, when patients give you the compliments or write you back and say that I have experienced or I have felt God's presence in your hospital. So it's not just about having good customer service or good customer or patient experience in the hospital, but it's really having in your heart, the intention to make them experience God's love and compassion through our hospital services.
Yeah, I can really resonate with that. What you're trying to do with our hospitals and inviting them to be part of is that real Christian culture that we want everyone to experience. And you guys are the face of that, especially in our hospitals. I just want to do a quick shout out. I was looking through the chat here, and I see I believe they could be a worker at the Karachi Adventist Hospital. Elijah, thank you for watching and tuning in with us here. I have one more question for you, Mom Joanne. We know that we're in the midst of this worldwide pandemic, and things are getting a little bit better now, as we know. But how has this affected our Adventist hospitals here in SSD?
Well, everyone got affected, especially at the start, and of course, the experience is usually one of there's financial challenges for the hospitals, but beyond that, I think in all areas or all ministries of the church, there was like an explosion of reaching out to people through the social media and through helping one another. And among our hospitals, usually, of course, it's because it's a healthcare facility, so we deliver healthcare regardless of the situation, the quarantine situation. The hospitals remain open 24/7, and then they had to deal, of course, with their own stress and fear and anxiety over COVID, but they had to be brave and courageous because they have to deliver healthcare. But and beyond that, of course, our hospitals were very active. Everything changed in the hospitals. Their processes and even with the financial challenges that they have to put up resources so that they can make changes in the way that they do things. So, you have all these facilities that has to be set up or that have to be set up because of COVID, and strict infection control procedures and all that. Beyond that, they were very active in the community. They worked with the local government in disseminating information, in promoting. You have to have a strong immune system because it's really your primary defense against against COVID. And you also see them because many of our hospitals have their own health food production. Particularly baked products, wheat bread, cinnamon, and all that. You see them distributing them in the community, particularly also other hospitals. We have hospitals who have resources, so they shared it with their government hospitals because in their area, example, in the case of Penang, they do not admit COVID patients, so they help with the facilities in the government hospitals where COVID patients are being brought. We have our hospital in Palawan who's very active with working in the government, that they even receive a commendation and award from the local government because they were at the forefront of promoting health information and COVID, and they have this regular show where they disseminate information. And of course, many of our hospitals were in social media, and they were also being broadcasted in Hope Channel. Of course, still talking about health, and some hospitals reach out to the community because many people who have lost their jobs or do not have income during quarantine and those times, and they don't have food, so they helped out with food in the community. So we have seen really an explosion of all these activities in the hospital, despite the fact that they are also frontliners. They're in the very front lines of meeting and the challenges of COVID, particularly because they have COVID patients.
Yes. It's such a heartwarming, to hear how our Adventist health system is, reaching out to the community in spite of the situation that they may be experiencing as a frontliner. Thank you, Mom Joanne, for spending your morning with us. And if you have any questions, you can go to our SSD booth at our camp meeting. and follow up with one of our representatives, and we will find one way or another to get you in contact with Mom Joanne. Well, we want you to stay tuned. In just a few minutes, we will be having a short workshop with Pastor D-Zone on tips for reaching non-Christians. And we're back. Thank you so much, Tony and Miss Joanne Amparo, for that wonderful morning. It's a jump start our day talking about our Adventist healthcare and how they're creating impact in their respective communities where they are located around the Southern Asia Pacific Division. As we continue this morning, we have next in line Pastor Abner Dizon, and he has prepared a very interesting topic. It's about tips on how we can reach to non-Christians. I think you have we have friends or communities within our cities or the places where we live in, wherein we wish we can contact or relate or communicate with non-Christians, but we just don't know how to. So I hope that you will stick around, continue to visit our booth in the Southern Asia Pacific Division booth here in this camp meeting. We have a lot of resources and videos in stored for you, the same thing as the video that you're about to, or the program that you're about to watch for Pastor Dizon. We want you to stay tuned and watch this message brought to you by our Adventist Muslim Relations Director, Pastor Abner Dizon.
I'd like to share with you a presentation entitled Tips for Reaching Non-Christians. Now, let me jumpstart this presentation with a set of questions. As Seventh-day Adventists, many of us have thought about the question about the coming of Jesus. Now, how many of you have been a Seventh-day Adventist all your life? I have been an Adventist all my life. And yet every year I kept hearing the words, Jesus is coming soon. In fact, not just soon, we say Jesus is coming very soon. The question is, why are we still here? Now, I'm sure many of us have thought about this. If you have been an Adventist for so long, you ask this question, and then of course you have an answer. In Matthew 24:14, we have Jesus saying that this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world as a witness to all nations, then shall the end come. So obviously, we have to say that the end has not yet come because the gospel has not had a witness among all nations. In Mark 13:10, it says that the gospel must first be published among all nations. Take note, the word nation there does not mean the political countries. It comes from the Greek word ethne, and that's where we get the English word ethnic. So when we say the gospel needs to go to all nations, what Jesus was meaning was that all ethnic groups in the world should have a witness of the gospel. So, and that's the reason why in Mark 16:15 we are told we need to go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. In order to reach every creature on earth, we need to first reach every ethnic group in the world. So let me ask some questions, and then I will be answering those questions as well. The first question is, why are non-Christians important? Why do we have this presentation on reaching non-Christians? Well, first of all, we need to realize when we think of the world, the Bible says, go into all the world and make disciples of all the nations. Now, how do we visualize the world? There are two kinds of worlds right now. The first world, okay, may be considered the world of Christians. There are 2.18 billion people who are Christians. These are represent 31% of the world's population. The other world is what we call the non-Christian world. There are 4.82 billion people in the world who do not belong to the Christian religion. These are the non-Christian. 69% of the world are non-Christian. Now, how many are 4.82 billion people? Well, if you sit down and start counting 1, 2, 3 until you reach 4.82 billion, it will take you 108 years to finish counting. That's how many non-Christians there are in the world. The sheer number reminds us that we need to reach them and do something. Okay, now the sad part is, we say that 31% of the world, or about 1/3 of the world, are already Christian. Okay, but if you count all missionaries, all pastors, all Christian workers, if there are 10 of them, 9 of them will go to the Christians. Only 1 will go to the non-Christian. And I think of this as an unequal distribution of the gospel. So it's important that we think, I'm not saying we don't go to the Christian, what I'm saying is, at least let's balance the number of people trying to minister to the non-Christians as well. So next question. Why should Adventists reach out to non-Christians? Well, of course, we already said because they're important. But I've listed some things that justify why we should focus on non-Christians. Number one is God's love. You know, John 3:16 says, "For God so loved," not the Christian, not the Adventist, "for God so loved the world." In fact, in the Bible, when you hear the word the world, the cosmos, it usually refers to those who do not yet belong to God. I mean, those who are not yet believers. So in essence, it's saying God loves the non-Christian, or God loves the non-believers. God loves these people out there, and that's why He sent Jesus to die for us. And we know the parable of the one lost sheep, the 99 that are not lost. In some ways, God seems to love more those who are lost than those who are not lost. Second reason why we should reach out is because of Christ's command. Matthew 28:18, and then Mark 16:15. He says, "Go." And that's the theme for these next 5 years. I hope that it will really sink in. By the way, this is a command. It's not an option. It's not multiple choice. You can choose to go or stay or whatever. We have to go and make disciples of all the nations. If we are a disciple of Jesus, you cannot avoid the obligation of making disciples of someone else. Number 3 is the uniqueness of Jesus. All religions have a way of making their adherents feel salvation, okay? Regardless of what non-Christian religion it is, they would say this is the way, you will have peace, and so on and so forth. But the truth is, Jesus Christ is unique from any kind of world religion. Even just the very fact that he lived, he died, and rose again from the dead, you cannot find any founder of any world religion that can that their adherents can say that they have done that. So, plus of course, we know that Jesus is not just man; He is God Himself. So the uniqueness of Jesus, and that's why in Acts 4:12 it says, there is no name given under heaven whereby anyone can be saved. There's no other way that they can be saved except through Jesus. And so we need to share that message to the non-Christian. And then number 4 is the equality of ethnic groups. There is no ethnic group that is higher than others. Americans are not better than, let's say, Pakistani. Filipinos are not better than Indonesian. All ethnic groups, all nations are equal in the sight of God. God is no respecter of persons. And therefore, He wants everyone, regardless of nationality, regardless of ethnicity, He wants them to be able to hear the message of salvation. Even if they don't get saved, even if they don't accept Jesus, they need to have the opportunity to either accept or reject Christ. And then number 5 is Judgment Day. We know that's the last message that needs to be brought to the world, to fear God and give glory to Him, because the hour of God's judgment has come. It's ongoing. We know that as Seventh-day Adventists. And since there's judgment, we have to go and warn people, especially those who do not know about Jesus. And then finally, number 6, there are practical reasons why we as Adventists need to share the gospel to non-Christian. Because number 1, it gives, being a believer in Jesus gives us such a peace of mind, such courage to live in terms of, even in the crisis time. And this is something that we should not be hiding. This is something that we should be sharing to people. So, I would say that most of us agree with the things that I shared with you. But the question is, so why do Adventists seldom reach out to non-Christians? Well, one of the reasons is what literature says, people blindness. Meaning, they're everywhere, and yet we're blind to them. It's like a mindset. When you have set your mind to see things or see kind of people, then you can identify with them. For instance, a Muslim can easily identify another Muslim. But maybe if it's a different religion and we don't like being with them, it's so easy to ignore them. Like I would go to the town here in the Philippines, and I would see a lot of Muslims. And yet I see many fellow Christians just moving around as if they do not exist. Okay? And they treat them just like other Christian would treat them. It's what I call people blindness. We are blind to their existence, not physically blind, but we ignore them. Number 2 is fear or prejudice, especially when we're dealing with the Muslims, for instance. Here in my country, in the Philippines, there's a stereotype when, for instance, you see me having a beard like this. And so the stereotype is these are connected to the dangerous people, okay? And so we don't want to deal with them. We are afraid of them, or we are prejudiced towards them. We think they're lower than us, and so reaching out to them it puts us in a lower position. Number 3 is discouragement. If I'm a pastor and I try to reach out to, for instance, the Hindus or the Buddhists or the Muslim in my country, it will take maybe years before I see baptism. But if I go to Christians in 2 weeks' time, especially in the Philippines, sometimes in just 1 week we get so many baptisms, right? So there's that discouragement of having to spend a lot of time in order to just lead one non-Christian to Christ. Okay? And then there is the lack of empowerment. If we are not trained, if we don't push people to go and reach out to the non-Christian, then there is not a motivation. And it also includes the lack of know-how. Many of our people are good in reaching Christians, but we don't know how to approach a Muslim, a Hindu, a Buddhist. And so because we don't know, we prefer not to go and reach out to them. But the good news is non-Christians, it may be difficult to reach them, but they are reachable. Okay? Experience and research has shown that even though it takes longer, they can be reached by the gospel. Okay. Now, so the question is, how can you, as a Seventh-day Adventist, prepare yourself to reach out to non-Christians? Now, before you begin trying to reach out to them, it's important that, number one, you strengthen your own spirituality. You cannot give to someone what you don't have. And many of these non-Christian, like the Buddhists, they are very spiritual. The Hindus, they always try to connect to the spirits. Well, okay, it's a different spirit. But my point is, if you as a Seventh-day Adventist have a lukewarm faith, what can you offer them? You need to be able to bring them something that probably they don't have. So strengthen your spirituality. Number two is to develop a heart for non-Christians. Like I said, we are blind to non-Christian because we haven't set them in our minds. But if we have a heart for them, if we have a passion or a burden for them, then it's easier. You will be able to recognize them when you are traveling and then when you are moving around. So we need to have that heart for non-Christian. And by the way, you can ask the Lord to give you a passion and a burden for non-Christian. And then number three, find ways to be with them. One of the things that I keep thinking, if I want to reach Muslims in the Philippines, for instance, I need to be going to the market most of the time. I need to, because they are there selling their wares and things like that. But if I don't go where they are, how can you reach them? Okay? They will not come to you. You have to be the one to go to them. Okay? So find ways to be with them. And then study their culture and religion. The reason why we're very good at reaching Catholics, reaching born-again Christians, reaching evangelicals and Protestants, because we have studied their religion, right? If you want to know how to reach out to the Hindus, the Buddhists, and the Muslims, you need to know what they believe. You need to know what our similarities are, as well as what are the differences. Okay, so study their culture and religion. And then finally, learn to explain your faith within their context. Okay? That's called contextualization. In other words, don't try to explain your faith to a Buddhist or a Hindu using Christian terminologies. I remember one of the experiences of some of the ones trying to reach out to the Buddhist. They started preaching and they say, you need to be born again. And that's a very Christian terminology. You can find it in the Bible. But in the Buddhist mindset, being born again connotes reincarnation. And in their religion, they believe that when you die, you can turn into something else, and then it's a never-ending cycle. And so when this Christian preached, you must be born again, instead of thinking about Jesus, they're thinking, yes, I need to be reincarnated. So that's not how to explain it. You need to explain it in the context that they can understand. Otherwise, they will misunderstand the message that you're trying to give them. Okay, so now let's go to some practical steps. I have 8 practical steps on how a Seventh-day Adventist can reach out to non-Christians. Okay, number 1, be extra friendly. Okay, friendship, we call it friendship evangelism, but it's simply just being friendly. Whatever, let's say, ethnicity you come from, friendship is something that is valued. Okay, so in order to be friendly, you need to show your interest in being a friend. Okay, go to places where there are lots of opportunities to be with them, show interest in them, and then use what we call the redemptive conversation. Redemptive conversation, we have the acronym FORT, FORT, meaning when you're talking with somebody, you talk about family first, and then you can talk about occupation. Those are 2 very easy conversation pieces, okay? Don't go directly to ask about religion. Don't talk about doctrines and things like that, you begin with family and then with occupation. And then when you find that they are friendly towards you, as you discussed, then you can drop some things about religion. And how do you do that? Well, maybe you're talking about the family, and then you say, oh, it's good that God has blessed you with many children. And then look at the person, whether it perks up their eyes or something. If they become positive, then you can go and talk a little bit more about religion. But if they become offended or they suddenly become unfriendly, then that means they're not open to talk about religion. And then you go back to family, occupation, then try again. If they're closed-minded, then you just remain in the family and the occupation. But when you find somebody that is open and they say, oh yes, God is really very kind to me, or maybe they use the word Allah or whatever terminology they use for God, then you can move to a discussion that is not confrontational, but something that will open the door for future witnessing. Okay, so number 2 thing that you can do in order to reach out to non-Christian is have an event that will interest the non-Christian. For instance, if you're trying to reach out to the women of this group of people, you could start a health talk or cooking class. You can also do something like maybe massage therapy or fitness event, maybe sport festival, marriage and family encounter kind of talks, or child rearing. It depends on their interest. And so start doing these events. We're very good at events like this, except that we're not doing it for the non-Christian. It's mostly for the Christian in our community. Okay, or sometimes many of the non-Christian may have problems with literacy. Maybe they have a need to know more about computer or about English or whatever. So these are things that you can provide for free in the non-Christian community. Another thing that you can do is to learn the language of the people. Most of the non-Christian and the Christian have different languages. So if you can learn their language, that would be a good thing. Number 3 is, and this is good especially for women, is to minister through tears. Okay? Become friends with non-Christian, and then if they have problems, just be there to listen. Try to offer your presence. Be there. You don't need to talk. You don't need to say anything. You don't need to advise them. You can share your tears. This is what we call ministry of tears. Okay? Number 4 is minister through prayer. Many non-Christian value prayer. Of course, they have a different way of praying, but it's important, especially, for instance, the Muslims. They actually have a respect for Jesus. And you can tell them, can I pray for you in the name of Jesus? Affirm your belief in the power of Jesus. By the way, many of the Muslims that I've heard about, they actually believe that Jesus is powerful. And many of them, when they are in trouble, they call on Jesus, of course not as God, but they think he's a miracle-working prophet. So let yourself be known in the community as somebody who believes in Jesus, in the power of Jesus. Also, you may share with the non-Christians the Lord's Prayer. They like to have something memorized, and that the Lord's Prayer is a very nice prayer, very good prayer that meets the need of many non-Christian. I've heard of Muslims who was attracted to the Bible because somebody shared with them the Lord's Prayer in their language. So try that. Also, be prayerful. Engage in prayer wherever you are. One of the things that I feel that Christians are supposed to be prayerful. However, because we have this belief, or what the Bible says, that when you pray, you go to your closet, you don't let people see, and as a result, even though we may be prayerful people and we pray privately, many non-Christians think Christians are secular. Christians are not very prayerful people because we seldom are seen praying, whereas the Muslims, you can see them everywhere. When it's prayer time, by the way, 5 times a day, they would just go and pray regardless of who looks at them or whatever. Same thing with the Buddhists and the Hindus. They have temples and you can see them going there. They are not ashamed to be seen praying. So, I don't know, I would encourage you to show your non-Christian friends that you do pray. And maybe invite, and then say, can I pray for you? And then pray at the stop, right then and there. Don't be embarrassed to pray with your Muslim or Hindu or Buddhist friends. Okay? And this actually is related to what we call prayer ministry. You can just ask them, do you have anything that you want me to pray for? And then keep on praying. And then maybe the next day you can say, so how was that prayer request of yours? Was it answered? And so keep on praying until it is answered. You will be surprised. Many people eventually turn to Jesus because somebody had been praying for their prayer request and it was answered many times in a miraculous way. So prayer ministry is very important. Number 5 is share the good news of Jesus through Bible stories. It's something that's very simple. Tell a story. You know, the Bible is 75% stories, okay? Which means that the ones in the Bible realize that the best way to share the story and the message of the Bible is through story. So, share the good news of the Bible through Bible stories. Okay, so the number 6 is show the story of Jesus through videos. You know, there's the Jesus film. You can download it for free. Many times it's available in the language of the people, different languages. Try doing that. Just give them the link from YouTube, and it's a very effective way of letting people know who Jesus is. By the way, the Jesus film, you go to YouTube and type Jesus film. It's taken word for word from the Gospel of Luke. So while they're watching it, it's like they are reading the Gospel of Luke in moving ways. And then number 7 is give them a Bible or a portion of the Bible. You know, Revelation 1:3 says, blessed is the one who reads. Okay? If they don't have it, they will not read it. So the good news is nowadays you can share a PDF. You can give them a link in online. So it's effective to get people to read the Bible in order for them to know more about Jesus. Okay, so wherever you go, always have a small booklet or a New Testament or something like that, or a PDF, and share it with your cell phone. Okay, and then the last one, start a small group or a care group for non-Christians. Start having something like that. You don't have to make it very religious, okay? Because they might be offended. So try little by little to have a gathering of a small group, a care group gathering for non-Christians. It's been known that when we develop relationship and friendship with regularly eating with them and things like that, they become attracted to our faith. So those are the by the way, so there are things when you do have a care group, if you want to make it religious, you need to, what we say, contextualize it. If your care group is a Muslim are for Muslims, then you don't want to mix men and women in one care group. And also, you probably don't want to be wearing shoes in the meeting place and so on and so forth. So you need to contextualize and be sensitive to that. Okay, so in summary, reaching non-Christians, number 1, be friendly, extra friendly. Number 2, do a women's or an event that is interesting to them. Number 3, minister through tears. Number 4, have a prayer ministry. Number 5, tell Bible stories. Number 6, show or give out the Jesus film. Number 7, give out Bibles or the Gospel of Luke. And number 8, start a care group for non-Christian. So, are you ready to go and reach out? Well, try. You don't have to try all of this, but if you will try just one at a time, I'm sure you will be closer to reaching a non-Christian. So if you need any more assistance or some tips on how to do this, feel free to email me, get in touch with me. I'm also sharing these materials that I'm using. You can download it and some script on this presentation. So God bless you, and I hope you start thinking and doing in terms of reaching out to non-Christians. Let's go.
Thank you for the reminder, Pastor Dizon, that Jesus is for everyone. The bread is for everyone. Like what the Bible says, the message should reach every tongue, tribe, nation, and people. Thank you very much for that reminder. As we continue, we will have the Adventist Possibilities Ministries that will be introduced to us by Tony. Thank you, Edward. Thank you for introducing, leading us out with our last session with Adventist Missions. Now we're going to take a different step now, looking at the special possibilities for people in special needs in our communities. This will be led by our Vice President of Southern Asia Pacific Division, Pastor Johnny Lubis. So if you have any questions pertaining to this topic or any other topic, please come to our SSD booth at our campmeeting.com and chat with one of our representatives, and we will find a way to get in contact with you.
Halo, nama saya Sandro. Saya umurnya 26 tahun. Saya tinggal di Tangerang. Saya hobinya bermain musik. Saya bekerja di Palem Semi. Saya senang bergabung di AFM karena banyak teman. Terima kasih.
Halo saudara-saudaraku sekalian, saya adalah Rosinta Nurhayati Siahaan, selaku orang tua dari anak saya yang bernama Sandro Yos Endru Purba. Saya sangat bersyukur sekali dengan adanya AFM ini, Autism Friend and Ministry. Ini adalah suatu wadah bagi kita untuk mendukung anak-anak kita bisa melayani Tuhan melalui talenta apa yang mereka miliki, supaya mereka lebih percaya diri.
what is an Adventist Possibility Ministry? Before the name of this ministry, it was named Disability Ministries and changed to Special Need Ministry. Now, Adventist Possibility Ministry. Adventist Possibility Ministry is an emerging movement of compassion, faith, and opportunity. While we are not a department of the church, we are an initiative emphasizing principles that have been welcomed by the departments. We are Adventist Possibility Ministry, a movement, not a program using possibility thinking to help transform the lives of these 7 unique groups of individuals: the deaf, the blind, the physical immobile, those who have mental health issues, orphans, those mourning the loss of a spouse, and caregivers, as well as those who live and work with them. Every person is needed. Every person is valued. Needs must be met, but with desire that every person develop their own ministry of serving God by helping others. Being a recipient is not an goal for everyone. All are broken in some ways because of sins. There is no person more deserving than another. All are created in the image of God, regardless of any ability a person may have or not have. All life is a sacred gift and must be respected. Dignity is not an attribute that is to be developed or earned. It is inherent in everyone because of the one who created us. As the gospel changes everything, so Adventist Possibility Ministry is anchored in belief that change is possible. When the principles are in place, Adventist Possibility Ministry can be described in the following way. All are gifted, needed, and treasured. Adventist Possibility Ministry seeks to inspire, equip, and mobilize those who are differently able to serve God and community as expressed in the mission statement of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
There is no sweeter place to be in than in a home where God's love reigns. Divinely instituted in 2017 and graciously set in operation with the admission of first house parents in 2019, Kids Grace Campus, a child care facility, welcomes and houses children deprived of genuine love, parental care, and belongingness. Established in Cancilayan, Murcia, Negros Occidental, under the leadership of Negros Occidental Conference, this said project is the first ever child care facility in the territory of Central Philippine Union Conference. The said foundation is a product of a heaven-born compassion for homeless, abandoned, and abused children.
It is our program here to welcome them to an environment where they can all thrive and grow and prosper to become useful citizens of the community.
Living the love of God, the institution aims at saving children from evil influences and securing for them an education for eternity.
Handom kag tinutuyo sang sini nga orphanage ministry amo ang pagpatukod sa isa ka world class ka orphanage diri sa Barangay Cancilayan, Murcia, sakop sang Negros Occidental Conference. Kagamo ang pagbulig sa mga kabataan nga wala sang ginikanan o kundilo, mga ginbayaan, ginabandona, ginsikway kag mga ginabuse nga mga kabataan nga sa diin mahatagan sila sang maayong buwas damlag sa ilang kabuhi.
Kids Chris Campus currently houses 9 children who are trained to love God, raised to be responsible individuals in the community, and educated for the life to come. Egg production and mushroom cultivation are 2 of the livelihood programs of the facility to sustain each family's living and generate income for the campus. To extend the joy of giving to more others, Kids Chris Campus has launched its catalog wherein benefactors may choose the kind of gift they will gladly give to keep the children's hope alive. This sacred trust has been in existence through the thoughtful donations of God's people, and it will continue to gladly receive willing generosity from the compassionate hands of everyone touched by the love of Christ. Let us unceasingly receive love from the Father above and share that love.
Welcome from Adventist Possibility Ministries of Bangladesh Adventist Union Mission.
Bangladesh is a very small, beautiful and overpopulated country from Southeast Asia. Here in Bangladesh, 15% of population live with disabilities. Disabilities can affect people in different ways. Some disabilities may be hidden, known as invisible disabilities. Autism spectrum disorder is a complex development disability. April 2 is Autism Awareness Day. We observed that day by rally and visited government organization. We gave toys for them. Her name is Nipa. She is 30 years old. Her father is working as a maintenance worker in our BAM campus. She is a burden for their family. However, they love her very much. As a church, we have a responsibility for her and her family. His name is Romit Kormukar. In our country, autism are being treated negative way, but Romit's family does not feel any burden. They experiences the love of God. We have many autistic children in our mission. Simon Marandi is working as a gatekeeper, church also supporting and helping the physical disabled person. For 7 years, she is studying in our orphanage KMMS. She cannot work properly. She study hard and pray to God for her life. Adventist Possibility Ministries of Bangladesh Adventist Union Mission and our 4 mission, we distributed needy widow different types of things and clothes. I am very thankful to General Conference, and Southern Asia Pacific Division leaders for their kind help and prayers. May God bless us all. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Greetings from the Adventist Possibility Ministries of the North Philippine Union Conference. Are very happy to present to you some of the reports from the field. Despite the fact of all of us face challenges because of this COVID-19 pandemic. This did not prevent the committed and dedicated APM coordinators to do compassion services. We could not have accomplished all these things without the guidance and providence of the Lord. Here is the report of the NPUC Adventist Possibility Ministries. Let's watch it.
Ako po si Ana Marie M. Arveta. Ako po ay 20 years old po ngayon. Mahirap po ang buhay namin noon dahil ang nanay po namin ay wala at ang nagtatrabaho lang po ay ang tatay po namin. Ang lola po namin ay inaalagaan po kami. Si nanay po ay napag-isipan pong sumimba sa isang simbahan na kung saan po doon ay makakasimba po kami nang hindi po linggo. Meron pong isang grupo na taga-Canada po na pumunta po doon. Nung nalaman po niya yung buhay namin ay kinuha po kami at pinag-aral po kami. So pagkatapos po noon, pinatira na po kami sa mga family po ng mga miyembro sa San Pablo Church. Inampon po kami. Nung nandun na po kami sa church, marami po kaming natutunan. Araw-araw po binibigyan po kami ng Bible study kami po ni ate. Habang pong patagal po ng patagal, nakikilala po namin ang Panginoon at natutunan din po naming manalangin. Ang hindi ko po makakalimutang ginawa ng church sa amin ay nabago po nila ang buhay po namin. Nagpapasalamat po kami sa Panginoon ng sobra-sobra dahil kahit nawala na po yung mga magulang namin ay nandyan po lagi siya upang gumabay at hanggang ngayon po nag-aaral po kami at binigay ng Panginoon sa amin sina Mami Edna Rivera Walker para ituloy po yung mga pangarap po namin sa aming buhay po.
We are here, the family of Alibnas, with Nanay Betty and Tatay Modesto, and we are about to give hope this radio transistor, where the love of God is broadcasted 14 hours a day, 7 times a week. And Tatay Modesto himself is victimized by stroke and now half-body paralyzed, considered to be a special need individual. And we are about to give him this radio so he will experience and hear the love of Jesus. He will hear the sweet melodious sound of Adventist music, and indeed, he will find it.
We are created in Christ. Thus, to do good works and serve others are clear manifestations that we are indeed God's followers. Yet, serving is not an easy task. It takes much love and sacrifice. Our brethren from Northern Luzon Mission, who fully grasped this holy undertaking, are again on their venture of going to the mountains to search individuals with special needs and special attention to bring God's love and hope in this hopeless world. They don't mind the piercing heat of the sun, winding and bumpy road, just to reach the barrios where hopeless people can be inspired. We have offered radio transistors, therapeutic massage, heavenly songs, and prayers to our newfound friend, Tatay Modesto Calibnas, Mother Violeta Maria, and Tatay Philip Sanchez, who are physically suffering and in need of hope.
Siya na Violeta Basat, nagkandakte radyo dagi Adventist.
Ako'y nagpapasalamat na binigay sa akin ang radio nyo ng buong puso ng Adventist.
Mana punay.
Jesus tells us in Matthew chapter 25 verse 40 that whatsoever you have done to the least of these my brethren, you have done it unto me. Here at Northern Luzon Mission, we are committed to inspire and give life meaning to our people, to our friends who have special needs. Special Needs Ministries, I will go!
Possibility Ministry Report on the year 2020 to 2021. We are so blessed to share to you that last December 23, 2020, there was a rice and goods distribution at Cagayan de Oro City for the blind community, headed by Pastor Sigundino R. Asoy, our SPUC ABM coordinator. Another event took place at Zamboanga Peninsula Mission. This was the Filipino Sign Language Training for Secretaries under the leadership of Pastor Vilmar Mandalupa. It aims to accommodate the deaf community in the office, and this happened last September 28 to 30, 2020. Another event took place at SPUC 40 Days Journey with God online evangelistic meetings. They wanted to make sure that the deaf community can also participate, and so they asked 2 interpreters to give accessibility to this community. These are some of the deaf community who have expressed their gratitude that they were able to be given the opportunity to take part in this event. There was also a Global Youth Day at Zamboanga Peninsula Mission last March 20, 2021, and 5 deaf from EPIL have participated their outreach program. One of them here, as you can see in the video, is Jaire, and he is here praying for the deaf community and even for the drivers at EPIL Market. And as you can see here, he is so happy to take part in this outreach program. And according to him, he's happy that despite of being a deaf, he was able to take part in this event. And also there were donors willing to share their blessings to the Sulad's deaf. And so last March 16, 2021, we're so happy that we were able to do visitation and goods distribution. They received sacks of rice, school supplies, and goods. And we are so happy that indeed God have provided for their needs. Zamboanga Peninsula Mission is also happy to share with you that there's a new church called Adventist Community Church, and this is visions to have a PWD-friendly church. It has 4 non-SDA deaf churchgoers, and their church pastor is the one who is giving the interpreting service for them. We are also happy that the deaf community from EPIL were also able to join the livelihood orientation with the help of their interpreter Paul Marcaperte. And we are happy that the deaf community at EPIL is also giving goods and foods to those deaf who are in need. Recently, a deaf couple from Zamboanga City had their wedding, and we are also happy that we have extended interpreting services for them. Indeed, to God be the glory.
कभी कभार सोचता हूँ कि सुनने में तो दुनिया अच्छी नहीं, देखने में न जाने कैसी होगी। मेरा नाम जूलियन कैसर है। मैं एक म्यूजिशियन और म्यूजिक टीचर हूँ। बॉर्न ब्लाइंड होने की वजह से पहले 4 साल तो स्कूल नहीं गया, क्योंकि माँ बाप को भी इस बात का अंदाज़ा नहीं था कि ऐसे अफराद के लिए स्कूल्स मौजूद हैं। स्कूल जब शुरू हुआ तो काफ़ी अनट्रेंड और स्ट्रिक्ट टीचर मिले, जिसकी वजह से जहन में एक डर सा बैठ गया और स्कूल से इंटरेस्ट कम हो गया। फिर पता चला कि यहाँ म्यूज़िक क्लासेस भी होती हैं, तो मैंने म्यूज़िक क्लासेस लेना शुरू की। यहाँ से मेरा सफ़र शुरू हुआ। नापा ने बड़े अच्छे तरीके से मेरी हेल्प की मुझे काम सिखाने में। अब मैं देख तो नहीं सकता, लेकिन महसूस मैं दीगर लोगों की निस्बत कुछ ज़्यादा कर सकता हूँ। तो म्यूज़िक तो है ही, फीलिंग्स का काम है। इसको सीखने में मुझे ये मुश्किल सिर्फ ज़रूर आई कि मैं नोटेशन नहीं पढ़ सकता था। तो नोटेशन को पढ़ाने के लिए मुख्तलिफ़ तरीक़ों से कई बार मेरी क्लास फेलोज हेल्प करते थे, कई दफ़ा टीचर्स हेल्प करते थे। शुरू से लेकर अब तक काफ़ी सारी स्ट्रगल्स मेरे साथ रही हैं। जब मैं 7-8 क्लास में गया था तो म्यूज़िक सीख रहा था। उस दौरान हालात बहुत ख़राब होते थे कराची के। म्यूज़िक क्लास के लिए चला तो जाता था, पर वापसी आने में अगर हालात एकदम से ख़राब हो गए तो बसेस बंद, गाड़ियाँ बंद। कई बार ऐसा हुआ कि 5-5 किलोमीटर तक भी मतलब ऑन फुट हमें घर आना पड़ा वॉक करते हुए। डर भी लगता था, लेकिन ज़ाहिर काम भी सीखना था। म्यूज़िक मेरा पैशन भी था, प्रोफेशन भी अब बन चुका है। आई थिंक ज़िंदगी में एक ऐसी स्टेज पर आ गया हूँ कि जिस काम को सीखने में मुझे इतनी मुश्किलात दरपेश हुई, मैं नहीं चाहता कि वो मेरे स्टूडेंट्स को भी फेस करनी पड़े। तो मैं स्टूडेंट्स को यही समझाता हूँ कि तुम लोगों को ये काम आसानी से मिल रहा है, साफ़ सुथरे माहौल में मिल रहा है, इस काम को इस तरह से ज़ाया मत करो, इसको अच्छे तरीके से सीखो ताकि आगे आपके काम आ सके। मैं चाहता हूँ कि माशरे को सिखा दूँ, ज़िंदगी में कोई ये शख्स अफसोस ना कर सके कि मैं म्यूज़िक सीखने इस शख्स के पास गया था तो मुझे कुछ सीखने को नहीं मिला। मैं ये समझता हूँ कि आपकी कामयाबी या नाकामी की वजह माशरा, फैमिली या और कोई नहीं होती, बल्कि आप खुद होते हैं। अगर आप वाकई कुछ करना चाहते हो तो बगैर आंखों के भी बहुत कुछ कर सकते हो, और अगर आप कुछ नहीं करना चाहते तो आपके पास 4 आंखें भी आ जाएं तो भी आप कुछ नहीं कर सकते।
And there you have it. As you see through the videos and the stories that Pastor Lubis has shared with us, that Adventist Possible Ministries is there to meet the needs of those in our community. And I think it's a good question for all of us to ask, what are we doing? What is our local church doing to reach out to those who are most in need and need our special help as well? Well, if you have any questions or want to learn more about this, please go to our booth at our campmeeting.org. Find the Southern Asia Pacific Division and chat with one of our representatives. Now, we're going to take a short break. We'll be back at 11 o'clock and 12 o'clock for 2 more live streams. At 11 o'clock, we'll be with our our Mission to the Cities Director, Pastor Doug Venn, who will be sharing with several young adults and myself about the ministries that can be done in the cities to share the 3 angels message. And after that, we will have a keynote address with Dr. Orathai, and that will be at 12 o'clock. So please don't miss that. We'll be back.
After his death, memorial was added. Thus, H.W. Miller Memorial Sanitarium and Hospital. Currently, it is known as Adventist Hospital Cebu. After having undergone a facelift in its physical structure, Adventist Hospital Cebu is now a level 2 hospital that is humbly offers an improving medical care service in a modern 100-bed, 5-story building and a newly built emergency room. AHC provides education to people in the surrounding communities regarding lifestyle changes and proper diet through free health lectures. It also provides free medical outreach services and participates in programs regarding promotion of health. Services that this hospital offers includes anesthesiology, cardiology, chaplaincy, CT scan, dental, dietary, EENT, emergency care, family medicine, fine needle aspiration biopsy, gastroenterology, general surgery, gynecology, health education, hemodialysis, intensive care unit, internal medicine, laboratory, obstetrics, ophthalmology, orthopedics, outpatient services, pediatrics, pharmacy, physical therapy, radiology, and ultrasound. In the ministry of healing, the physician is to be a co-worker with Christ. The Savior ministered to both the soul and the body. The gospel which he taught was a message of spiritual life and of physical restoration. Deliverance from sin and the healing of the disease are linked together. The same ministry is committed to the Christian physician. He is to unite with Christ in relieving both the physical and spiritual needs of his fellow men. He is to be to the sick a messenger of mercy, bringing to them a remedy for the diseased body and for the sin-sick soul. There are 238 employees in this hospital who firmly stand with its commitment dedicated to total care. They are continually committed to improve its health care services.
Five decades after its founding, Adventist Hospital Davao has developed into an ISO 9001 certified hospital, offering excellent healthcare services to the people of Davao City, which is known as the biggest city in the Philippines. While operations advanced by fits and starts in the early decades, it has since then found stability and strength to face squarely the challenges of the 21st century. From a clinic in a leased space in a downtown city building in the 1960s, it has flourished. In 2021, Adventist Hospital Davao operates from a 3-story building as a healthcare institution that continues the healing ministry of Jesus Christ. Notwithstanding its 4 name changes, the hospital has maintained consistent efforts in high-quality patient care, continuing personal development, deeper spiritual growth opportunities, higher management efficiency, greater financial stability, and environmental conservation. Through all its years of service, Adventist Hospital Davao has stayed the course and delivered on its mission. In 2021, healthcare services offered are under Special Unit Services, a 24-hour emergency service, hemodialysis, intensive care unit, operating room, Center for Mental Health and Psychosocial Development Clinic, diet counseling, dental services, health education, lactation counseling, prayer and counseling, smoking cessation, social services, wound care services. Under medical services, we have pulmonology, cardiology, endocrinology and diabetology, nephrology, neurology, urology,